Today we are going to factor. So the first step I want you to do whenever you have a factoring problem is to ask yourself, are there any common terms? And what do I mean by that? I mean, if we have a question like 2x plus 8, is there anything you see in common? Yes, there is a 2 in this term, and there's also a 2 in this term. Another example would have been 2x squared plus 3x. So here we said there was a 2 in common. And in this one, what's in common? Well, there's an x in this one, and there's also an x in this one, and that's it that's in common. So there's an x in common. Let's do one more. 4x squared plus 16x. Well, there's a 4 in common. Is there anything else in common? There's an x in both of them. So there's a 4x in common. If so, factor the common term out. So let's call this number 1, number 2, number 3. So if we take the 2 and factor it out, that means you divide each term by what you factored out. So 2x divided by 2 is x, plus 8 divided by 2 is 4. In the second one, we had an x in common, so let's factor that out. So 2x squared divided by x leaves you with 2x left. 3x divided by x leaves you with 3. The third one, we said we had a 4x in common, so factor that whole thing out. 4x squared divided by 4x, well, 4 divided by 4 is 1, which we don't have to write. X squared divided by x is just x. 16x divided by 4x. Well, 16 divided by 4 is 4, and x divided by x is just 1. So we just have 4. Now, in order to check your work, you can just go ahead and distribute and make sure it worked. So you get 2x plus 8. Yay, it worked. Again, this is our final answer. This is just my check. Let's make sure this one worked. 2x squared plus x times 3 is 3x. Yay, it worked. That's just my check, not my answer. And here, let's just check this one. 4x times x is 4x squared. 4 times 4 is 16x. Yay, check. Okay, so we can get 100% on this quiz because we can distribute to check our answers. The second step you'll ask yourself, is the expression in ax squared plus bx plus c form? So, for example, x squared plus 7x plus 6, for example. In that case, if so, unfoil. So what I mean by that is unfoil means put your parentheses, then do your first. So our steps are first. Our second one is to do the outer. Then we do our inner outer thing. And then we do our signs. And I'm going to do this much slower in the next slide. So how do you make the first? How do you make an x squared? Well, that's an x times an x. Remember, everything we're multiplying here. How do you make a 6? What times what is a 6? Well, we could do a 6 and a 1. So let's see if that works. Let's do our outer. That's an x. And our inner is a 6x. Can you combine a 6x and an x to make a 7x? Certainly can, a plus and a plus. So your signs are plus and a plus. And I'm going to do that much slower on the next slide, but since we've already done it in class, you know what I'm talking about. Let's do this one. Let's just do it very slowly. Again, first, last, outer, inner, and then we do our signs. Okay, so we have our X and our X. That was our first. Now we need a 6. So how are we going to get a 6? Let's try a 6 and a 1. Let's do our outer and our inner thing and see what we have. We have an X and we have a 6X. How do we make a positive 5X? We need a positive 6 and a negative X. And so if we put our signs in, that would mean the plus goes here and the minus goes there. And then we need to check, make sure our signs are right. We know that the middle works now. Does this make a positive 6? Plus 6 times minus 1. Oops, we screwed up. That does not work. So our 6 and our 1 cannot possibly work. Is there any other way to make a 6? Let's start over. X and X. Yeah, there's another way to make a 6. It could have been a 3 and a 2. So let's do our outer. Let's do our inner. Add them to make 5X. So plus and plus. So a plus sign goes there, and a plus sign goes there. Now does our last give us a positive 6? 3 times 2. Yes, that works. So this one is our answer. Let's try number 2. X and an X. Well, we already know the 3 and the 2 is not going to make 7. So let's go back to our 6 and 1 example. Let's see if that might work. We have an X and we have a 6X. Can you do anything to get a 7X? Sure, plus and plus. So the plus goes there, the plus goes there. Positive 6 times positive 1 is positive 6, so that works. Let's try this one. What's our first step? Step 1, are there any common terms? Are there any common terms? Certainly, there's a 2 in all of these. So let's factor it out. 2x squared divided by 2, x squared. 4x divided by 2 is 2x. 6 divided by 2 is minus 3. And so now let's try and factor that guy. You just leave the 2 hanging out. You don't do anything with it. Just let it hang out. To get an x squared, you have an x and an x. To get a 3, you have a 3 and a 1. The outer is an x. The inner is a 3x. Can we combine these to get a positive 2? Certainly. We have a plus here and a minus here. That would give us 2x. So the plus sign goes here, and the minus sign goes here. And then I've just got to check, does my last work? 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. That's my answer. Here are some for you to try on your own. There is a special case, and that's called the difference of two squareds. If you have an expression of the form x squared minus a squared, the difference of two squared numbers, basically, x squared minus a squared, this can be factored into x plus a times x minus a. So let me give you an example. If I had x squared minus 9 for an example, you know 9 is 3 times 3. In other words, it's a squared number. So that would be factored into x plus a, x plus 3, x minus 3. something like x squared minus 4. What's 4? That's 2 times 2. So you could factor it into x plus 2, x minus 2. Why are these special? Well, look at the outer and the inner. They are the same, but they have opposite signs, meaning you will get 0 x's for the middle, nothing in the middle. So that's why these are special. Because you always get nothing for the middle term. So I just did these two. This would be x plus 2, x minus 2. This would be x plus 3, x minus 3, because remember this is 3 times 3. This is 2 times 2. What about this one? 9x squared minus 16. And you might remember on September 16th, I told you it was my birthday, that it's the coolest birthday in the world because 9 is a perfect square, 3 times 3, and 16 is a perfect square, 4 times 4, meaning this guy can factor into 3x plus 4 times 3x minus 4. So whenever you have these awesome difference of two squared numbers, you have exactly the same thing here and here, but one has a plus sign and the other has a minus. So that's about it for this lesson.